the lobby. Coming out.
I see them. They're entering a gray minivan.
I am a follower and a wallflower, and I'm good at it. I'm Andrea, and I'm a surveillant with the Canadian Security Intelligence Service.
At the end of the corridor, on the right.
The target is a Caucasian female, about 5 feet 5, around 40 years of age, medium built, blonde hair, shoulder length.
Wearing an ivory trench coat, black pants.
I'm on Highway 20, approaching the airport from the south.
Arrived at the airport at 22:34.
She's leaving through door number 7.
She was picked up by 2 females in a gray minivan.
Entering the vehicle.
The vehicle is leaving.
This is not her first time here. We have information that she has had prior contact with individuals known to the service. It's important that we understand her intentions for coming here last night.
Teamwork is the foundation of my job. We rely on each other to ensure our goals are met and our operations are successful.
Target is coming out of the lobby with a blue bicycle.
Target is leaving on the right.
My workday involves physically following a target or person of interest without he or she knowing that they are being observed.
We just stopped on Hunter Street. We're dropping off Hoswa.
Surveillance is not for everyone. It is not a 9-to-5 job.
I need an update.
The target is going north on Canning.
Okay, I see her.
It takes patience, flexibility, and common sense to complete often long, complex operations that are mandated by CSIS and Canadian law.
And going into the main hall.
We have new info. She's meeting someone on St. Alex Sound between St. Antoine.
It takes natural ability and training to be able to blend into the background.
Observation focus.
Add us on your location.
We're in position.
She's getting off. Square Victoria.
My work is unique and exciting. It has stretches of long idle moments and bursts of adrenaline in between.
I'm on standby. Anderson Street.
She's coming out.
A surveillance's greatest skill is to be attentive to detail.
Okay, I see her. Target is walking north on St. Alex.
Even the most seemingly insignificant thing can make or break a CSIS investigation. She's approaching a blue vehicle. She's dropping off her bag.
The blue vehicle is turning left on Tuesday.
Surveillance work helps CSIS maintain its important role of keeping Canada safe for all of us.
South of the hill, the west on I'm on location. Target parked in the car, going into the apartment. Vehicle on the move, heading towards the airport. Vehicle arriving at Cape Hillary. Okay, I see her.
The East German Stasi police, a system really comes out of the Soviet Union Cheka police. Again, the same idea. How does a totalitarian government control things on the street? Well, you have this cooperation between citizen spies, citizen snitches, who are often motivated by a little bit of money, or maybe they're given a break on a criminal charge that the police have against them. In other words, you cooperate with us, we'll cooperate with you. And so you get a whole network, incredibly organized, vertically integrated network in which many citizens, often ex-military, often ex-police, often military, often police, often civilians, often bottom feeders. These would be what we call the perpetrators, who actually are carrying out the gang stalking operations against the TIs, who are the targeted individuals. And normally, this involves at first a few years of surveillance, so that the targeted individual or the TI doesn't even know that they're being targeted. But they are getting, the perpetrators, the hierarchy there is getting a psychological profile on the individual so that they can figure out how best to push their buttons, harass them, get them to get pushed over the edge so they will act out. For instance, if they were to commit a crime against, one of their gang stalkers, or commit suicide. There's a lot of material on this on the web. I would tell your readers. A lot of people are speaking out about this. So there's a lot of targeted individuals who have access to the same technology that you and I do, who are putting their stories on the internet.
Alleged Burke Street killer Dimitrios Jimmy Gargasoulas has told a court the Illuminati were to blame for the fatal attack. claimed he was privy to the secrets of the Freemasons and insisted that the government was controlling his life. Mr. Gargasoulas, who allegedly killed 6 people, including 2 children, on the 20th of January, 2017 by driving a car at pedestrians. He interrupted his lawyer's discussion about future court hearings, saying, "Your Honor, I was under extreme stress which caused me to have a mental breakdown." In a short stream of consciousness, Mr. Gargasoulas also said he held the key to Freemasons' treasure and declared, "It's not fair that my life is being controlled by the government. We must refer back to God's royal laws to prevent lies, corruption and death," he continued. "I'm very sad for everything that's happened, but it's due to the Illuminati," he said before the video link was cut off. Mr. Gargasoulas is charged with 6 counts of murder, 28 counts of attempted murder and conduct endangering life.
But I got to be something else. But I would just suggest, I don't know how much, have you talked about gang stalking much with anybody?
Not much at all. We've talked more about, kind of how technology is being used to spy and stalk people. But no, it's come up a little bit here and there, but not in detail, no.
And one of my appendices that I'm going to upload on the site soon is on gang stalking. I've gone online and I've got about 5 or 6 books on it now, so I have a fairly good understanding of what it is. It's a program of citizen spying that goes back to the Roman Empire. It was very, very common in the Soviet Union, in communist East Germany, the Stasi police. 1 out of 6 citizens in East Germany were spying on each other. And this is a program right out of hell. The FBI did this in the COINTELPRO, counterintelligence programs in the 60s and 70s against minorities. Now it's worldwide, and it's it's applied to everyone. And so this is a way for the power structure to enforce its will on the street by taking out those individuals who might be a threat. And of course, they've got a very extensive propaganda system. Most people are watching football and baseball and soap operas and their equivalent, or they're getting propagandized in the schools. But then there's always the whistleblower types. They call it memes now. If somebody's honest, that's a meme to these monsters. But so they've had a lot of experience with gang stalking, and there's 2 main components to it. One is when you have a whole network of secret citizen spies who are harassing targeted individuals, TIs, 24 hours a day and 7 days a week. People are recruited from all walks of life to be the eyes and the ears of the state, and the government is paying for it. And yet it's the same program worldwide, so it could be even one person who is running it. And there's no way out. And it combines this kind of street theater, gang mobbing, humiliation, shunning, you might say, in the extreme, with directed energy weapons, what they call non-lethal weapons. And of course, that can cause, ringing in the ears, and eventually they can, cause heart attacks and aneurysms and things like that. So it's a progressive program. If I were to become an activist on one thing now, other than this research, I would get out into the world and I would go to conferences about gang stalking, and I would shout it from the highest building that this is happening and our government's paying for this. And guess what? Julianne McKinney, who's been a victim of this for 40 years and who herself was an intelligence officer and has written a book about this that you can find online. She says in her work she's found that one religious group tends to be doing the perpetrating, and the targets tend to be members of other religious groups. Well, maybe we can put 2 and 2 together and figure out who the gang stalkers are. So, and there might even be a spiritual component to this. They're going after dissidents, they're going after truth tellers, 911 researchers, people who homeschool their children, innocent people, whistleblowers. This is a way to control the streets and to intimidate people and to ultimately kill them if they can't be brought under control another way. So while I am optimistic that we have some big hurdles ahead, and I think a huge one is to expose this gang stalking program for what it is. And I think Mark Rich's book is excellent. It's called The Hidden Evil. the financial elite's covert war against the civilian population.
That what's how they're doing it is by hiding their plans in documents, but in language that's obfuscatory. And one of those things are those Intel agreements, the global network agreements, the extended enterprise agreements that the NSA has made with other Intel agencies, as journalist Susie Dawson just recently revealed on one of my programs. And that's something that she's working on currently with her Decipher You podcast as well. So she's the one who's really delving into the Snowden docs and trying to figure them out and trying to bring out stuff that mainstream media simply hasn't brought out, even though those docs have been out for a little while now. So, but what you pointed to was the fact that the NSA, which is a military agency, as you say, it's the military. The military agency has made these agreements with intelligence agencies around the world, with governments around the world, to for instance, make use of their satellites, of all their hardware, in order to literally spy on the world and in order to completely control the world. So we have one set of docs there, and then you have Agenda 21, which is actually in the public domain.
Yeah, these are all different aspects, I think, of the same plan, and so we're getting the details fleshed out. You and I are working very hard, and we have the benefit of being in contact with other people who are working hard, and of course having the resources that are available, books and articles on the internet, etc. Yeah, this is it. I mean, the NSA, of course, is gathering all this metadata about everybody in the world, and this then becomes the database from which they can target individuals who are problematic, like you and me, who, truth tellers or whistleblowers or something like that. We gotta neutralize that person. And by the way, if we go back to Dr. Robert Duncan's book, The Matrix Deciphered, he mentions all of this stuff. He worked with the DOD and the CIA on these projects as a computer scientist. And he says their plan is to get that this targeting that you and I are going through, the brain mapping, the controlling of individuals through these electromagnetic frequencies, coming from their supercomputers, et cetera. This is going to be over, he says, by the year 2030. There's 2030 again. And by that time, all the TIs will be dead. And that's you and me, Romola. So you and I, we have a certain reason to fight this thing with every fiber of our body.
Yes, I figured that out very recently too myself, that basically their real hope is to take out the people at the forefront of this information dissemination program that we are engaged in, but which they are choosing to call information war, which it's not. What we are doing is providing information. We're not engaged in a battle. They are. So, but what they want to do is take out the people at the forefront of this information war, that they've called information war, in order to make it easy for them to simply railroad and make docile and compliant the rest of the population. So literally those who are being targeted, the outspoken ones in communities, people with spine, backbone, integrity, who speak out against corruption in whichever area, if you're a whistleblower or an activist, then you become targeted. And when you're targeted, what they really want to do is take you out. So as you...
It's murder. It's a murder program. It's a slow motion murder program. Let's be very clear about this. This is a way to neutralize, which is another euphemism for kill.
It is.
They've been doing it around the world for a long time. I've learned recently, Romola, that so much of this comes out of the CIA's MK Ultra mind control stuff, and that went into the Kubark torture manual, also called interrogation manual of 1962. Revised in 1985. And the whole gang stalking manual protocols have been used around the world to take out problematic politicians, intellectuals. This is not new. This was going on.
This is the Phoenix program that was in Vietnam, right? That's now come home to roost in the USA and all over Europe, everywhere in the world, really.
Everywhere in the world, the East German Stasi used it against their own people, intellectuals oftentimes, people with some moral fiber. Likewise, in Western Europe, we had Operation Gladio in Italy, and then all the stay-behind armies in Western Europe. This is NATO. This is all NATO, CIA, MI6 war against the civilian population, or what they would call insurgents. You see, then they do the counterinsurgency. CIA goes
Correct.
in and identifies the influence map, and find out which individuals might be problematic for the would-be dictator. And then they send in the Army and the Marines and the Special Forces, Special Operations, Psychological Operations to kill them. And this is what it is. It's a murder program. So we now have the U.S. government. We now have the U.S. government trying to murder you, Romola, and me, and all the other TIs. Now,
and this is why we are here today. This is why we're here.
See, gang stalking doesn't tell you who's doing it or why. I think the terms that I'm coming up with may be a little better in that regard. Targeted individuals doesn't tell you who's doing it either. I think maybe another terms would be designated as states' internal enemies or adversaries, or they use the terms insurgents non-state actors, potential terrorist threats. These are blacklists like the Phoenix program in the Vietnam War to neutralize the domestic population or the domestic support system for the Viet Cong back in the Vietnam War. In this case, the people that anybody can be put on these lists and tortured and ultimately harassed or even killed.
So Eric, somebody gets their name on this list, and it might be some man or woman who is agitating, organising rallies in state capitals or in London or Manchester, and the person might be very charismatic, and they might be gathering great numbers of people, and they might be disseminating important information. Now, who decides to attack them? Is it one agency, or is this a multiple agency program against the people?
Absolutely multiple agency. In fact, just like the Phoenix program in the Vietnam War, which went on from 1967 until the early 70s, which our leadership deemed a success and patterned the death squads in Central America, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and elsewhere after that. This is coordinated many agencies. In fact, most of the sectors of society are coordinated with these Department of Homeland Security fusion centers, now 78 in America, and the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force. What they're dealing with is federal agencies, intelligence agencies, and the military, who are now coordinating efforts with local police and the private sector contractors and vigilante citizens groups like Neighborhood Watch and vigilante police groups and first responders and even businesses, like your local restaurant and hotels, so that essentially what the military is doing is using the civilian sector as quote-unquote irregular forces in order to target other citizens, and you've described it well, who might be perceived as potential leaders, who might want to educate and mobilize others for some kind of political change. So this is a way to neutralize smart people.
Eric, can I clarify something? Can I clarify something there, because you've blown my mind, and no pun intended there. You've absolutely knocked me for six. The old cricket term there. I'm actually stunned. You're saying that these, I'm going to call them monsters because they are monsters. These are sociopathic, even psychotic monsters. They are using our friends and neighbours against the people they are targeting. You mentioned Neighbourhood Watch. How would they do that? Would the Neighbourhood Watch person be aware that he or she is being used as a conduit in order to target somebody else? Are they aware of it? How does it work?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Dr. John Hall, who is a physician in San Antonio, Texas, wrote a book called, two books on this. One is called Guinea Pigs, Technologies for Control. And he says that the targeting has 6 phases. The first, you get selected. Second, surveillance, then stalking, and concomitantly with the stalking, you have the defamation phase where the target is defamed in the community. And then you have the direct attacks with electronic weapons, directed energy weapons, and then you have the monitoring of the program. Along the way, operatives, who might be, with the local police or with the military or whatever, are actually conducting a rumor campaign and are spreading lies about the targeted individual. They actually have in their term. There's a lot of this coming from a book by Mark
Rich, New World War, revolutionary methods for political control. And so they would go into the community, they would tell, your neighbors that you're a pedophile or you're a prostitute or whatever, and that you're a suspect, they don't have enough evidence to lock you up, but they got you under surveillance. Would they be willing to help with the investigation by doing such and such? And pretty soon they're dangling, a little incentives like money,
cash,
part-time, full-time money, etc.